All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Living the Dream podcast. Today on the show, we have Jeff Ward, who is a semi sought after campaign manager and the founder of Forward Communication. Jeff, how you doing?
I am good. How are you, sir?
I'm fantastic, man, and we like to jump right in. So if you can start with telling us a little bit more about yourself and what you like to do for fun, that'd be great.
Sure. I when you asked me prior to the show, where things are going. I wish I knew at the ripe old age of 64. But I've done a variety of things throughout my life. What led to being a campaign manager was I got a gig with the as a freelance opinion columnist with the suburban Chicago Sun-Times newspapers. And after covering politics for so many years, a friend asked if I'd run his campaign. And with certain input from certain friends, like the county clerk who runs elections, another friend who's just so into numbers, I put together a reasonable game plan to get people elected, and that has happened. I'm responsible for getting our state's attorney elected here in Kane County. I wish I wasn't. That happens. I'm responsible for getting the sheriff elected here in Kane County, and I'm thrilled I did. I probably turned the tide for Aurora Mayor Richard Irvin, and I will never live that down. So, this is kind of a double-edged sword. I wrote the book as a result of my reasonable success. I wrote the book So You Want to Win a Local Election, which is available on Amazon. It's literally a 400-page textbook written in outline format where you can, just read snippets as to where you are in the campaign. I've also continued writing. I am sending my book, The Diary of a Curmudgeon, my first humor attempt, out to various agents. And right before the show, I was working on Diary of a Curmudgeon too, because I figure if you have faith in yourself, the universe will respond.
What was
For
it called?
fun,
The Diary of a.
Diary. The first book is Diary of a Curmudgeon, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Pandemic, which is a takeoff on Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove,
Mhm.
which with the movie, one of my favorite movies of all time, which is Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. My
Okay.
second book is going to be Diary of a Curmudgeon too. It's just a friend said, your life is so bizarre, you have to document it. And so that's what I've done with that. And this is what I do for fun. But other than that, what did I put in my bio? I like running, road biking in the bedroom, annoying the neighbors and swearing at the Cubs on TV.
I gotcha. I gotcha. You said road biking in the bedroom?
Right. I used to, and I'll get back to it, but I used to road bike on the street. But the director of the Kane County Department of Transportation got picked off a 10-foot shoulder by a kid that didn't, and he rode to work in all weather by a Northern Illinois University kid who didn't clean off his windshield. So I've decided that if I ride in the bedroom, you know, I put my tablet in a handlebar holder, and with Rovi, you can virtually ride all over the world.
I see.
I've ridden in Italy, Yugoslavia, Norway, South Africa, and if you have a smart trainer, it will mimic hills. So it's a lot safer. If a car somehow makes it in our second floor bedroom, we have a lot more to worry about than just, me riding the road bike.
Yes.
So that's why I ride in the bedroom. I still run outdoors with the two dogs, and I really enjoy that too.
There we go. There we go. Well, tell us a bit more about your motivation. What really gets you up and keeps you going every day?
Well, it's odd. My mother, my family put the fun in dysfunction. My mother said I should be an attorney or a writer, and I think I chose poorly. But I I used to read Mike Royko with my grandmother, the late great Tribune Sun Times columnist. I have all of his books. I used to run to Corinne's drugstore in our section of South Evanston, run home with the paper. We'd read Mike Royko together and laugh. Then the opportunity presented itself. I sent a letter to the editor of an email to the editor of a local newspaper, basically excoriating him for his Plan B thoughts. And he printed it without my permission. And I joked with him that I wouldn't sue him if he gave me a column. Well, he gave me 3 columns. The newspaper got sued because of another columnist by former Bears place kicker Bob Thomas, who was a Supreme Court justice at the time here in Illinois. And I ended up writing for the Chicago Sun-Times suburban papers, and I loved it. I love it. Sadly, my timing sucked. It was right before the print media recession, which quickly turned into a depression in the Great Recession. And but I still, and I walked away after 8.5 years, wasn't going anywhere. I still write for myself on the firstword.net, and I just really enjoy the process. So, and as far as campaign managing goes, it's gotten tough, Tim, because I'm still motivated because getting a candidate like Kane County Sheriff Ron Hain elected, who's doing amazing things, jail recidivism is way down, his drug program right there in the jail, the rehab program is working like a charm. That kind of keeps me going. My issue there is I'll work for any good candidate. I'm not partisan. I've gotten Democrats and Republicans elected. And in today's hyper-partisan times, that makes people rather suspect. So it's been a little more difficult to get those gigs these days.
I got you. I got you. And so when you are helping somebody get elected, how do you get paid? And how long do you have to work with them? What does it all entail?
Well, there's various campaign seasons. What state do you live in, Tim?
Texas.
Texas. Okay, so that's going to be somewhat different. Up here in the Rust Belt, with Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, New York, Pennsylvania. There's generally 2 election seasons. There's the even years where state senators, countywide officials, statewide elected officials, and federal officials. And then there's the consolidated elections, which are odd-year elections, which is city councils, mayors, and the lower stuff. So technically, right now we're heading into 2024, and really election season has already started. Really, May or June, you got to announce, you got to set your place. Then you have to start, drumming up your support, building your team. September comes around, you got to get in Illinois, you have to get signatures to run for office. And the number of signatures are based on the office and previous voter turnout in previous elections. So for the most part, I've let people come to me, and occasionally I'll reach out. There's a judge candidate I've been kind of helping out. I don't think he's going to hire me, but Facebook is a great way. I've written this book, and I try to focus on decent candidates, but boy, they're so good at gilding the lily, which is a nicer way to put it, that sometimes it's difficult to tell. But there's nothing, I mean, as far as, aside from sports betting, which I'm slowly getting better at, sitting down, crunching the numbers, and knowing exactly what it takes for this candidate to win. It really does come down to basic math. I hope I'm not too all over the place. But there we go with what I warned you. But yeah, so, right now I may help another judge candidate out if she runs. Other people may approach me as the season kind of gets into higher sync. But it's a little frustrating because to a degree, and how you get paid, you charge a monthly fee. And you and you make sure you get paid at the first of the month, and you don't work for them if they don't pay you, because their politicians are notoriously slow and bad about paying. You really have to be kind of unequivocal about that. Not all of them, but it is a bit of a young man's game, and you can tell I'm not a young man anymore. But still, there's something that draws me to it. And a 75% success rate, that's pretty much unheard of. But part of it, again, Tim, is I don't take candidates who can't win.
Yeah.
I refuse to take their money. Now, if they come to me and say, hey, I just want to make a name for myself so I can win next time, I have no issue with it. But everybody goes into it thinking they're going to make some sort of sweeping grand gesture. People are going to flock to the polls and elect them, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And nobody wants to pay much for it either. But that's fairly standard.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So, in addition to running local elections, you're a writer. Is there
Yes.
anything else that you do in your day to day when you have writer's block and local elections have slowed?
Well, I never have writer's block. You never know it, but I sit well out on the autism spectrum. And I am the king of ADHD, though meditation has dealt with that to some degree. But if I'm not doing that, I'm betting on baseball and hockey. And that's been tough. I've paid some tuition. I've had some great successes, but I think I'm finding my gestalt there. That's not, I don't like that word, but I can't think of any other word. And it also really starts with Nate Silver, the 538 blog, because I'm not a bad mathematician, specifically statistically, but I'm never going to beat Nate Silver. So, and I track his successes and then I try to play on them. I mean, Diary of a Curmudgeon is really the diary of an introvert
Yeah,
who's learned to play the extrovert. Um, and So, there's sitting at home with perhaps some nice music on in my home office alone, um, crunching baseball numbers. Ooh, Tim, it just doesn't get much better than that. So, I've set up my entire life so I have a great deal of solitude.
yeah,
My teacher wife is home for the summer. I tried to change the lock. She wouldn't let me. And it, um, the sports betting is a fascinating thing.
yeah.
So
I got
those are the campaigning, writing, 2 columns a week on local politics, and then sports betting, and it's a decent life.
you. There we go. Well, awesome, man. Tell us about your dreams and goals. What's your vision for your life and your business?
Well, that now that's easy. My vision is to be a best-selling author.
Gotcha.
And the book I have sent the book out to the Diary of a Curmudgeon out to 3 agents. And it's going to take more than that. I was really hoping two who their bios are hilarious that they would bite. But yeah, I really do enjoy writing. And it's not that I have a massive following. I'm more like a Bill Maher, a centrist who takes on both sides. And right now, that's not. It would be so much easier if I was hyper partisan,
Yeah,
but you can't be what you aren't. So I really enjoy the process of writing, creating something from nothing. I like, yeah, and so that it being a best-selling author is a huge goal. Second would be to get to just get over the sports betting hump, and I am slowly creating a system that I think works, and to consistently make money at it.
hmm,
I'm no longer consistently losing money, which I think is an important step. But with sports betting, you have to be focused and you really can't let the brain, decide, the ego decide it knows what's better. Um, Got to trust hunches at times, but you just have a system, you stick to it, and I firmly believe it'll play out over the long run. And I wouldn't mind, I like being a campaign coach a bit more than some of the day-to-day grunt work. And I wouldn't mind breaking out into some statewide races or whatnot. But for now, I'm happy having the occasion to get a good candidate elected, and I'm happy reaching out. The Facebook, Newton Minos, who recently died, the former, federal FCC chairman, said TV is a vast wasteland. Well, he lived to see social media. I wonder what he thought about that. But Facebook is a wonderful tool for connecting with candidates and getting to the point where you might be able to help them out. I hope I answered that question.
yeah.
Again, I apologize.
Oh,
Allergies.
no need to apologize anymore.
Okay, well, oh
Um,
Lord.
best-selling author because you love creating something from nothing with your
Right.
writing, and then the consistently making money with sports betting.
Hmm.
you tell me about, like, when you're sports betting, is it like this team's going to score this many points, or like how do you create a system that is consistently profitable in sports betting?
Well, if I knew, but I mean, I think I'm getting there. Well, the first thing is, I mean, you have to have a system. You can't just, the best bettors, the absolute best, the top 1 or 2% win 60% of their bets.
Mm,
I mean, that's it. So you got to come in with that notion. You have to, thankfully the rabble tends to move, anytime you Darvish pitches for the Padres, he's not that great a pitcher, but the odds just go hugely in his favor. So you can still take advantage of those kinds of things, as I did, I want to say 2 days ago with was it Stroman versus Darvish or somebody else? But
um,
the Cubs beat him. So you take a chance. You go to the 538 blog, and what Nate does, he doesn't make predictions. And Nate Silver, with most major sports, he gives you a percentage chance for each team to win. And the odds. The funny thing is, he's actually better with the 50 to 54% or 51 to 54% possibility of winning than he is with 55% and above. So that's important to know. Track his results. Nate tends to use what I believe are moving averages, where you smooth out the data over time.
mm,
My first commandment of sports betting is sports is streaky. So like right now, what is it? The Cubs? No, the Toronto. No, they lost to the Houston Astros. I want to say the Tampa Bay Rays, which have made me a reasonable amount of money, have won 3 or 4 straight games. Well, I'm not going to step in the way of that, even if they're facing a good pitcher. Streakiness overrules long term. And then in baseball betting and in most betting, you can bet on an over or under. A certain, like most of the average over under in hockey is 6.5 goals. The average over under in baseball is 8.5 runs. And so I do same game parlays where I bet on who wins the game versus the over or under. And I don't just take, as most bettors do, the run line or the odds they give you. You are allowed to manipulate them, which generally makes your winnings go down. But I try to get to a point where I'm going to at least double my money if I win a bet. So if it's the Cubs versus the Padres and the over under is 7.5, and I think it's going to go over, I might drop the over under to 6.5 runs. I mean, this could get really complicated. Tim, stop me if I'm getting too nutty. But the bottom line is, I base the initial bet on Nate's math. I take into account how streaky the teams involved are. ESPN has these wonderful game logs listing every game a pitcher has pitched this year and how they've done. So I look at that to see where they're headed. And then, there's all sorts of betting tools for the average amount of runs a team has scored over the season and the last 3 games. And I make the bet accordingly.
mm.
So I that's a simplification, but I don't think I spend more than 5 minutes per bet, because as you bet, you become very familiar with the teams, the players, the pitchers, etc.
Yeah.
And you
And
can do a little bit.
what's over under 6.5 in baseball? Is that like
In
6.5
baseball, typically if
points?
you get somebody like Marcus Stroman, who's having the season of his life for the Cubs, and Yu Darvish, who's highly overrated, but bettors go for over and under rating, the rabble, as I like to put it. The sports books will set a line of 6.5 runs, and you can bet on whether it goes under. That means both teams' run totals together are under 6.5 runs. The 0.5, of course, eliminates ties. If you think Darvish is going to have a bad day, which I believe he did when I bet, and you would go over 6.5 runs. And there's all sorts of tools that tell you the most common baseball scores. 3-2 is the most common baseball score, and so forth and so on. So you can, start to turn the odds into your favor. I need to pay a little more attention to, I need to continue to take the ego out of it to be more successful. I have fought when I've had months where I've made $2,000 on $15 bets. And then I lost it. I've never blown out like so many people. So my goal is to take the ego completely out of it. But you can do that with these numbers. You don't want to get to paralysis through analysis, but there's a reasonable analysis which puts you, in the right stead. The other thing that's critical too is in most sports, well, wait a minute, in hockey and baseball, you can bet on the team to win, which is the M line or money line, or you can bet on a team to win by 1.5 runs or goals. Well, and you got to win by 2. You can't score half a goal or half a run.
Mhm.
And that's the run line. But one of the things I found is that teams in baseball win by 1 run just 27 to 28% of the time. So that means 72 to 73% of the time, they win by more than that, they win by 2 or more. Armed with that knowledge, I will bet on the run line as frequently as possible. So, and I did the other day, I bet on the Cubs to beat the Padres by at least 2 runs. And I believe they won 6-1, not yesterday, but the day before. And you win more money that way. And for some odd reason, despite the fact that the run line happens way more often than the money line, sports books just emphasize the money line. So again, you can shift those odds in your favor.
I mean, it makes sense.
So in fact, I won $15 on a $10 bet with the Cubs on the run line because it was, was 150. Plus 150. That's 150% of your winnings.
Yep.
And so, I won $15, and that's a good, anytime you can, win 50% of your money. You've got me on a subject I love to talk about.
Yeah.
But it's not easy. I mean, there's a reason why, 90% of sports bettors lose. It's tough to control your emotions. It's tough to not take a loss personally. It's tough to last through a losing streak where you want to pull your hair out. Although, as you can see, that's already happened with me. So that's the most fascinating part of my existence.
Yeah.
I think that will be superseded. I do firmly believe somebody will pick up Diary of a Curmudgeon. And I really enjoy that kind of thing. I enjoy interviews, as you can tell.
Yeah.
I've clearly done this before. I've also interviewed quite a bit before. And yeah, I mean, it would be nice. I'm finding myself at 64 in a strange position where I really want to start making money again. I've made a series of shifts and you kind of go through the desert, as my mother used to say.
Yeah.
So right now I'm just having faith and believing the doors will open when it's time for the doors to open.
I gotcha.
That's why I'm working on Diary of a Curmudgeon too. I'm telling the universe, see, I'm so confident I'm working on the sequel.
Yeah. I love it. Well, that's cool, man. Sports
Some
betting.
days better than others, Tim, but for the most part, I'm in a good spot.
Do you have like a pool of money that you consistently use?
Yeah, I invented a product called the Lapinator, and I did quite. It was a portable insulated laptop desk, and everybody was burning themselves on their laptops, and it used Thinsulate, and I blundered into a design that actually kept the laptop cooler, and I took it to number 2 in the market, made quite a bit of money, and unfortunately, the Russians screwed my stock account, so I'm not touching that money these days, but thankfully I make enough, and I'm 64, Social Security, I'm doing okay in this strange time. But yeah, no, I did really, really well with inventing a product and bringing it to the market, and it allowed me to kind of expand my life. But I mean, now it's nose, but then the stock market has its ups and downs, and now it's nose back to the grind. Although my wife talks about retiring. I'll never retire. I love what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. So you could retire with the money that you made from this product, or you still can't touch it because
No, unfortunately I was a little too my money manager was so good, I thought the gravy train would never end, and it hasn't ended.
I got
But I need to not touch that money now, and let him do his work. The market will recover. It always does.
yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. I get what you're saying.
Mhm.
I get what you're saying. Well, cool.
I mean, if I could go back, would I do some things different, Tim? Yes. But who doesn't say that? Who doesn't say, I could have been better?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I still get to do what I love every day of the week, and I wouldn't trade that for anything.
That's all that counts.
Mhm.
All that counts.
That part I've got down.
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, when it comes to like sports betting, are you like trading with like, so say you have a pot of $5,000 and it's like I can place bets out of this $5,000, or do you have an arbitrary amount of money? It's like if I'm
No,
feeling
no.
real good,
I
I'll
put
throw
we
out
won't talk about my losses. But I basically have a pool of $2,000.
there. Gotcha.
And I tend to bet. They say you bet 1%. I don't even do that.
Yep.
I typically bet $10 to $15 on any one game. And if you do a same game parlay right, you make 30 to $50.
Yep.
So one bet can pay for 2 to 3 losses.
Sounds a lot like day trading.
It is, but sports is a lot more predictable.
Mm,
And with a a tool like Nate Silver in the 538 blog, I mean, the guy made made a name for himself doing that kind of thing. And as long as, I mean, but you know what? I was going to say, as long as you understand the streakiness of sports, but even if you just went with his numbers, I mean, he wins, about 59%, 58, 59%. His predictions, I'm sorry, come true 58 to 59% of his time. Just basing your betting on that, if you understand money management, and you have to be careful because, I mean, if you're betting on the Dodgers versus the A's, the money line on the Dodgers is going to be like negative 320%,
mm,
which means you have to bet $320 to make 100. And, even the A's win the occasional game.
yeah.
So that's when you go to the run line to make it a little more palatable. So you got to look at what Nate does, but you can't just bet straight money line on that because the teams that are expected to win don't win as much money.
Yeah.
So you have to come up with a system where
Bigger
you can
risk to reward.
consistently win as much money. The other thing you want to do is eliminate the hold because that'll kill you. Because the reality is in sports betting, you just have to win 52.7% of your bets to make money.
Yeah.
But that's because, typically if you bet straight, and the majority of bettors do this, if you bet right on the money line, on the money line as it's given, the odds are, for two evenly matched teams, negative 110. That means you have to bet $110 to win 100. And on a $20 bet, you win $18.18. And that dollar 82 you pay in, the VIG or the hold can eat you up. So my system eliminates that. In same game parlays, there is no hold. So that's one thing that it gets rid of. With the run line or puck line, there's no hold. So
Yeah. It's crazy how similar this is to day trading.
yeah, I'm sure it is. I've done that.
Yeah.
I was fairly successful. I was offered a job in Iowa. My wife didn't want to move to Iowa, but I really didn't have the money I needed to make it successful. And the ADHD and autism diagnosis didn't come till I was 58 or 59, and that's been huge. But I've been betting it'll be 3 years in September. I've paid some tuition, but like I said, I'm not consistently losing money. I mean, I just went through a 6-day losing streak and it killed me.
Yeah.
I was losing 30, 40, $50, and you can come back from that.
Mhm.
And I've had I could use one. I've had some incredible winning streaks, but the key is like today out of 8 games, I only won 2 bets, but I won enough on those 2 bets that I only lost $13.
Yeah.
And I follow Nate unerringly, but the run lines didn't work out in a number of games. So, sometimes like, when if you look at the Miami Marlins versus the Kansas City Royals and the 2 pitchers, well, the under is the far better bet with those 2 offensively challenged teams.
Yeah.
And the score was 9-6. Oh, well, you don't want to, you're not going to get rich betting on the over between the Marlins and the Royals.
Yeah. I got you. I think you'd be a great day trader. And you don't have to
Thank
put,
you.
yeah, you should, if you ever get interested.
Well, I've done it.
Yeah.
I've traded. Yeah.
There are companies out there
Yeah.
that like actually fund you with, so if the money was an issue and you passed like a trading test to show you're actually a good trader, they'll give you $100,000, $200,000 of their own money to trade with.
Oh, wow.
So that you can risk 1%, and maybe they'll let you lose up to like $10,000 or something like that. So maybe you're really risking like $100, $200, but you can start making a couple thousand a month, and then you grow your account and eventually split off.
No, I'll keep that in mind. I mean, right now, I like the utter independence of sports betting. And again, I got really good at technical analysis, but the volatility some of these days is insane. And I know then you can move on to options and deal with that. I'm a lot happier with sports betting.
Yeah,
And
if that's what you're happy, do it.
Yeah, and the key for me is, not beating on yourself. Not beating on yourself when a candidate loses an election. I've always done my best. Not beating on myself when agents don't pick up the book right away. It's a long game. You got to contact a lot of agents. And not beating on myself when I follow the system. There's the key, Tim. And, and it doesn't turn out exactly how you'd hoped. But that's the joy of following Nate.
Yeah.
Generally, if Nate has a bad day, well, so do I.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think I could develop a better system than he's developed.
I got you.
And then the rest of it is kind of filling in the blanks. I mean, simple things like, okay, only 28% of baseball games are decided by 1 run. That's so counterintuitive.
That is.
The average baseball score, the median or mode baseball score is 3-2.
Yeah.
And then there's wonderful charts of what's the odds of a team scoring 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 runs and so on. How well does this pitcher pitch at home or away? Sometimes it's a huge disparity that can give you a massive leg up. So, but I've gotten it down to the point where I don't spend more than 5 minutes a bet. I just go, all right, look at the standings. How are they streaking? Look at how they've played each other the last couple of years. Okay, how are the pitchers doing? Then I go to 2 sites I like that make predictions and see what they have to say, because it gets me thinking.
Yeah.
Then I check how has this team done in the last 10 days batting? How have they done in the last 14 days? How has their bullpen done in the last 14 days? How have they done versus, if it's a right-handed pitcher against them, how have they done versus righties? The opposite with lefties. Is the wind blowing out? That takes 2 seconds. There's all sorts of sites for that. And then I finally go to a site called OddsShark, which encapsulates all this stuff together and lets me kind of look at it in one place. And one of the thing I've really am learning now is if it's taken me more than 5 minutes to place a bet, don't bet. It's not, excuse me. I'll say, speak to me to the stuff on the computer. And after 5 minutes, if it hasn't spoken to me, let it go. There isn't a clear winner. I've got to I have gotten better at it, and I'm going to continue to get better at it.
I got you. Well,
and again, I don't want to dismiss writing. Again, if anybody's interested in running for local office, so you want to win a local election, it's available on Amazon. The ebook's only $30. The full color book is $100 because it costs a mint to print a color book. I'm hopefully will have Diary of a Curmudgeon out there soon. I am convinced it will be a bestseller. But can I read you a passage from Diary of a Curmudgeon 2? A very short one.
Go for it.
Okay, let me find it. And this is the kind of humor I try to apply. Okay. Oh, there we go. And the kind of irony I like to use. Okay, May 30, 2023. There I was, duly taking the doggies for their 1.5-mile morning walk, when I was graced by the semi-rare sight of a middle-aged couple jogging directly at me. The truth is, at least 98% of the subdivision's runners fly solo. Being famous throughout the neighborhood for my friendly demeanor and jolly disposition, just before the duo passed me, I offered a hearty good morning, an entreaty they completely ignored. In fact, they responded as if I didn't even exist. And I have to say, I really enjoyed the experience. They're my new favorite Fisher Farms couple, and I'm looking forward to having them completely ignore me in the future. Imagine a world where all neighbors were this circumspect. It gives me goosebumps. So, an introvert's take on the world.
Yeah.
So I enjoy that just as, you laughed. I
Yeah.
enjoy that as much as sports betting.
It's funny because I laughed specifically because you talked about cursing at the TV and something with your neighbors.
Yeah, and annoying the neighbors. Yeah,
Yeah.
the theme throughout the book is neighbors are just inherently annoying. Oh,
Yeah.
you could see the sun streaming in my window. I've talked about how hard it is to lose a well-trained neighbor, and that sometimes you can't train them.
Yeah.
The newest neighbors had a really nice sign to the 2023 graduate. And I thought, well, that's nice. That as I was walking through our cul-de-sac, we live on the entrance. I got a cooling down after a run. I got a closer look at the sign. Tim, it was for a preschool graduate.
Oh.
I know. As I put in Diary 2, that should be a class 2 felony, punishable by a minimum 2 to 4 years in prison. And this neighbor is clearly untrainable. Then I ended by saying, why do these kind of terrible things always happen to curmudgeons? So, and some of it isn't quite as insane. But I try. One of my other favorite ones is, as you might imagine, I have quite a few political friends,
Mhm.
and we were trying to work out what is a journalist for purposes of attending a juvenile court hearing, which is usually closed to the public. The problem is anyone can say they're a blogger.
Mhm.
So we were working this out. I was working it out with the chief judge, a longtime friend here in Kane County. And and we eventually did come up with an answer, and thankfully Illinois law, as convoluted as it is, really helped. But here I am sitting, eating breakfast, something Korean, because I love Korean food. And the phone rings and it's the chief judge. And I figure, I'll call him back after breakfast. 20 seconds later, and I should have figured this out. My favorite judge, my former attorney, who I helped become a judge, they get elected here in Illinois, was calling. So I pick up the phone. I said, Your Honor, the chief judge can wait till I finish my breakfast, but for you, I'll pick up the phone. And he goes, Jeff, I'm sitting here on speakerphone with the chief judge. So the chief judge took it all right. But those kinds of things, I really enjoy writing about them. And you could tell I really enjoy telling the stories,
Yeah.
only me. And under friends, I was actually writing a book on the curmudgeon's guide to the universe. He goes, no. You got to write about your life. You got to document your life. The Time Horizon texted me at 2 a.m. and how I followed up with that. Smoke detectors only go off at 3 or 4 a.m.
Mhm.
When the battery's dying, and how I could not find the right one. And one of my dogs was panicking. What happened at a doctor's office when they tried to make me fill out the paperwork twice? Now, I did not go into the rant, but I did write what I wanted to say. And it's pretty foul mouthed, Tim.
I gotcha.
So those kinds of things. And I love doing this because Tim, you're reminding me of how much I enjoy this. We semi-autistic people are tend towards rabbit holes. And I forget sometimes when things aren't going exactly the way I want them, and they never go exactly the way anyone wants them.
Very true.
Uh, Um, I kind of get bogged down in the minutia, but you're reminding me how much fun I generally have.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah. So that's a lot of fun. And the other thing, we recently went out to a showing of late night catechism, which I was raised Catholic. I went to Catholic school for 9 years, kindergarten through 8th grade. We went, it's the longest running play in America, late night catechism. The sister is teaching a class and the audience is the students. Well, I got an onstage timeout for saying that the Immaculate Conception was when the Holy Spirit knocked up the Virgin Mary, which isn't true. I thought it was. I didn't remember. And I had so much fun on stage with the actress playing the nun that I now have a community theater audition tomorrow night.
Oh, there we go.
So, things build on things. So, yeah, I mean, I do, enjoy my life. I just need to start kind of filling in the middle blocks. You are clearly a lot younger than I am. But I think I'm starting to get it at 64, and we'll see where it takes me.
There we go. There we go. Well, let's jump into some of these other questions, and then we got about 12 minutes, so I'll probably have to let you
Sure.
go after them. But what are the top 1 to 2 skills that you could develop right now to make your dream life come true?
More focus in betting
Hmm.
and a little more persistence in getting the book out to agents.
I gotcha. I gotcha.
It's hard. As much as, I've been rejected, bringing a product to the market, it's still hard. So I need a little more persistence in getting, let's start cranking out these personalized letters. And then in betting, stick to the system, continue to hone it. The biggest thing I've learned in that is, again, as much as reasonably possible, the books allow you to shift the odds in your favor. You pay for that with less profit. So just, remember what I'm there for. I'm not there to make a ton of money on a single bet.
Yeah.
I'm there to win bets. And if I win bets, they take care of themselves. The money takes care of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
if you're shifting the odds in your favor and you're making 150% on your money.
yeah, I'm getting there. I'm still,
Earlier,
so
when you said you put a $10 bet, you get $15, is that you receive 25 back, or you receive
yeah.
you
Yeah,
receive
well, yeah, basically when you make a $10 bet, the $10 is theirs until the bet's done. If you lose, it's still theirs. If
Yeah,
you win, you get that back plus the profit.
I got you. I
But the
got you.
biggest skill, if you kind of ask me, well, what skill do you think what suits people who follow their dreams? Because I mean, I look at all my friends, I'm one of the last ones still doing it. And I'd say persistence and resilience.
Yeah.
And it's taken some effort to be good at both. There are days I'm great, which I'm like, woo, not bad. But the second you start thinking, I'm here, oh no, no, the goalposts move. You
Yeah.
know, my theory is, if I bet right, I will consistently win. I will suffer losing streaks because there are upsets. And oddly enough, baseball goes through like 4 or 5 day stretches where everybody upsets everybody else. But yeah, persistence, resilience, gratitude. Oh, that's another thing.
Yeah.
I'm always grateful. I mean, I live a life that 95% of the people on this vast planet would envy. So take nothing for granted, be grateful, and do what you love. I
Yep.
mean, Arnold Patton, the author, wrote a book called "Do What You Love, and the Money Will Follow." I'm still hoping he's right,
Yeah.
but I am enjoying myself in the process.
Yeah. Yeah. I got you. Well, if there were one or two people you could meet right now, and this could be a specific person or a type of person, and they'd really help you take that next step towards your dreams and goals, who would they be and how would they help you?
I'd really like to meet Nate Silver or a better like Jim Holzhauer, the Jeopardy champion. He
Mhm.
makes money sports betting. I mean, I learned from the best in elections and I passed up all my teachers. So I don't have that with betting. As far as the book goes, I want to run into an agent that gets me and loves what I do.
Mm.
And that's just a matter of, a numbers game. It's just like betting. You got to, I mean, I've gotten three, you're reminding me, three samples out to agents isn't enough. I got to start doing 3 or 4 a week. And,
Yeah,
and you need to personalize it. So running into that agent who would launch my career as an author. Those are the two.
I gotcha. And how much money are Nate Silver and Jim Holster making? Like, are people with sports
Jim
betting?
Holzhauer, you don't know. Nate, Nate made money playing poker before, all the good people got involved online. I mean, to get Jim Holzhauer, I mean, he made a bunch. I mean, it's just, I think he was the longest running Jeopardy champion. And, the story Jim likes to tell, he used to do a column for The Athletic. He doesn't anymore, which I loved reading it. Was that he mistakenly told his wife he bet $50,000 on Ken Griffey making it into the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. Oh, Ken Griffey Jr. I'm sorry,
Mm,
Tim. That was $50,000 to win 500. And his wife flipped, but he's like, it's Ken Griffey Jr. And he was dead on. He was actually surprised that one sports book laid odds that you could bet on Griffey possibly not being a first ballot Hall of Famer.
yeah,
So Nate, God only knows. I mean, my theory is, I would love to have income from campaign managing, sports betting, and being a best-selling author.
yeah,
But, as I talk to you, I realize money's important. My counselor tells me, you've done so well. He had me write my what my legacy would be, and I'm already there. It's
yeah.
just a matter of now filling in that spot, that space in between. Money is a nice acknowledgement. So that's my next step. I mean, I've done it before. I was a database programmer for major companies for 20 years, made a lot of money. Uh, Lapinator, my portable insulated laptop desk, made a lot of money. And here I am at another transition, and I'm going to get back to making a reasonable amount or to a lot amount of money.
Yeah.
But I think in this case, I've learned some of the things: resilience, gratitude, persistence. And if you don't enjoy yourself, it's just not worth it. One of the things every time I go to the doctor, with the exception of we discussed my fall on the ice back in March, and I've never fallen before in my life. Every time I go to the doctor, my health is better.
Mm,
My blood oxygen level hit 99 for the first time in my life. And having grown up with asthma, that's incredible. My resting heart rate in the emergency room after my fall was 55.
mm.
Even though I was stressed, last night my resting heart rate was 45. I have to get over what the fall did to my chest, but my blood pressure which I inherited, despite being an athlete, my blood pressure, I inherited high blood pressure from my family. We all have those kinds of things. But even that, every time I go to the doctor, it's lower than the time before. I mean, I do have to take a couple drugs. It's just the way it goes. So, and that's the other thing. I mean, it's overdone, Tim. Well, if you have your health, but it's true. I am friends with, despite my criticisms of them, I am friends with a great deal of judges here in Kane County, and everybody wants to be a judge. I mean, it pays, $200,000 a year. But Tim, they all get cancer, and I've just helped 2 get through it. And I almost got to say, I want to say, especially to one, you want this job so badly, I don't think it's worth it. So life is, I understand we all get boxed in. I want to say I got lucky with the Lapinator to make that kind of money, but it wasn't luck. Although there are days, that's right around that time I was going to go with further inventions, but I got a column in the newspaper, and that was my biggest dream. And I focused on that to the exclusion of all others.
Yeah.
I would do that differently if I had to go back. And my mother was dying of cancer at the time, and she loved the fact that I was a columnist. She was so flippin' proud of me. So I continued doing it. And I guess I'm glad I did. But, do what you love. Find out how to do it. I mean, if I can make these insane transitions as somebody who sits well out on the autism spectrum and the king of ADHD. I mean, Tim, I am so good at ADHD. None of the drugs work after 10 months.
Yeah.
Just so, okay, you meditate. And I would encourage people to just don't quit your job. I'm watching reruns of Barney Miller, one of my favorite all-time shows with Hal Linden, Max Scale, Ron Glass,
Mhm.
and Abe Vigoda. And there was a gentleman who got arrested in the episode I watched last night for practicing the javelin throw in a park and nearly hitting someone. And he'd given up everything at the age of 44 to go for the 1980 Olympics. I would not suggest that. I have, when I'm on Rovi up in the bedroom on the bike, I have dreams of the Tour de France. Tim, it's probably not going to happen at this point. But within the bounds of reason, you can start sports. You could do a $50 sports betting account and bet $1 per game.
Yep.
You can start writing something paragraph by paragraph, page by page. Like yesterday, I wrote 2,000 words for the book. Oh, and I finished a column. Oh, how about that? That's a good day. But step by step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. Step by step.
I really appreciate the opportunity for me to tell you what I needed to remind myself of.
Hey man, that's what we're here for, to help people
Yeah,
live the dream.
thank you so much for reaching out. You can tell I love doing this. I love talking about it. And I generally, for better or worse, don't hold back.
Yeah.
And thank you for letting me go with that. You really kind of let me, my writing is stream of consciousness, and you can tell why.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Well, thanks for coming on the show. It was a pleasure.
Oh, yeah, please let me know when it's out. Again, if anybody wants to get the best book on running a local campaign out there, So You Want to Win a Local Election, available on Amazon.
There we go. If you guys are listening to this and you loved what Jeff had to say, make sure to check him out, buy his book, be on the lookout for the sequel that is coming out, which is Diary of a Curmudgeon.
Well, you have Diary of a Curmudgeon, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Pandemic. My editor said, "You realize you've written a book about the pandemic?" I was like, "Oh, I have."
There we
And
go.
then we have Diary of a Curmudgeon 2, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Embrace Fame and Fortune, which I'm just assuming will happen with Diary 1. If anybody out there needs a good campaign manager coach, I know how most states work. I'd be happy to help in that regard too.
Love it. Thank you guys for watching. Contact Jeff. All the links to do so will be down in the show notes. We will see you on the next one. And on that note,
and I'll come back anytime you want to have me, if you're foolish enough to have me back a second time.
All right, there we go. Sounds good. Well, on that note, guys, we're out.